Lena Hartfield had always believed that survival was enough. It never was. She worked 3 jobs because one couldn't hold her afloat. The diner on 5th Street smelled like burnt coffee and broken dreams. The convenience store on the corner stayed open until 2 in the morning, and she stood behind plexiglass, watching people buy lottery tickets with the last of their hope. On weekends, she cleaned offices downtown, scrubbing toilets in buildings where people earned more in an hour than she did in a month. Her apartment was small. 1 bedroom, peeling wallpaper, a radiator that clanged through the night like a warning. She kept the lights off to save money. Darkness became her companion. She was 26, but her hands looked older. Cracked skin, chipped nails, the kind of hands that knew labor before they knew tenderness. Her mother had been sick for 2 years. Cancer, they said. The kind that eats you slowly, that makes you forget who you were before the pain. Lena paid for treatments the insurance wouldn't cover. She paid for medications that cost more than rent. She paid and paid and paid, and still, her mother faded. Debt piled up like snow in winter. Silent, suffocating. Lena stopped dreaming. Dreams were luxuries for people who could afford them. But anger was free. It simmered beneath her ribs, quiet and constant. She hated the world for its cruelty. She hated herself for not being stronger. She hated the men in suits who walked past her without seeing her, as if she were invisible, as if her exhaustion didn't matter. On a Tuesday evening, after a 12-hour shift, Lena sat at a bus stop. Rain dripped from the awning above her. Her shoes were soaked through. Her bones ached. A black car pulled up to the curb. Sleek, expensive, the kind of car that didn't belong in her neighborhood. A man stepped out. Tall, dark coat. His face was sharp, carved from something harder than flesh. He moved like someone who had never been told no. He glanced at her. She glanced back. He walked into the coffee shop across the street, the one that charged $8 for a latte. She watched through the window as people stepped aside for him, as the barista smiled too quickly, as the world bent around his presence. Lena felt that familiar anger rise. She didn't know who he was. She didn't care. When he came back out, holding his overpriced coffee, she muttered under her breath, just loud enough for him to hear, "Must be nice." He stopped, turned. His eyes found hers. Cold, unreadable. "What did you say?" Lena should have looked away, should have swallowed her words. But exhaustion makes people reckless. "I said it must be nice," she repeated, louder now. "To buy $8 coffee while the rest of us can't afford to eat." He studied her, not with anger, with something worse, curiosity. "You don't know who I am," he said quietly. "I don't care who you are." A small smile touched his mouth. It wasn't kind. He walked away without another word. Lena felt a flicker of satisfaction. Small, meaningless, but it was something. She didn't know that her life had just been marked. Before we go on, tell us, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below. The bus came. Lena climbed on. The city blurred past the rain-streaked windows. She went home, heated a can of soup, fell asleep in her clothes. At 3 in the morning, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Asterisk asterisk, you should have stayed quiet. Asterisk asterisk. Lena sat up. Her heart kicked against her ribs. She looked out her window. A black car sat across the street. Engine off. Headlights dark. Someone was watching. She told herself it was nothing. A coincidence. A prank. But fear has its own language, and her body understood it before her mind did. She didn't sleep the rest of the night. At dawn, the car was gone. Lena went to work. The diner was busier than usual. She poured coffee with shaking hands. She dropped a plate. Her manager yelled at her. She kept glancing at the door. No one came. By evening, she convinced herself she'd imagined it. She took the bus home, walked the 3 blocks to her building, climbed the stairs. When she reached her floor, she froze. Her door was open. Not broken. Not forced. Just open. Lena's breath caught. She stepped inside. Nothing was missing. Nothing was broken. But someone had been there. On her kitchen table sat a single white envelope. Her name was written on it in neat, precise handwriting. Asterisk asterisk Lena Hartfield. Asterisk asterisk. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a photograph of her, taken that morning, walking to the bus stop, and beneath it, a note. Asterisk asterisk, you insulted the wrong man. Asterisk asterisk. The envelope slipped from her fingers. She backed toward the door, but before she could reach it, her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. Silence. Then a voice. Deep. Calm. The same voice from the bus stop. Don't run, Lena. There's nowhere to go. The line went dead. She dropped the phone, ran to the window, looked down at the street below. 3 black cars had pulled up. Men in suits stepped out. 6 of them. 7 more. They moved with precision. No hurry. No hesitation. They surrounded her building. Lena's knees buckled. She pressed her back against the wall, chest heaving, mind racing. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. But the men were there, and they were coming. She had mocked a stranger at a bus stop, and now her world was collapsing. She didn't know his name yet. She didn't know what he wanted. But she knew, with a certainty that turned her blood to ice, that her life would never be the same. His name was Dominic Alvarez. Lena learned it later, when the fear had settled into her bones and her mind had stopped screaming. She learned it from the whispers in her building, from the way her neighbors suddenly avoided her, from the silence that followed her wherever she went. Dominic Alvarez was not a man people spoke about freely. He was a myth wrapped in rumor, a ghost who moved through the city's underbelly with the ease of someone who had always belonged there. He owned things, businesses, politicians, lives. The Mafia, they said, the kind that didn't make headlines, that operated in the spaces between legality and chaos. But Lena didn't know any of that when the men came for her. She only knew the sound of boots on stairs, the knock on her door, fame, deliberate, patient. She didn't answer. The door opened anyway. 2 men stepped inside. They wore black suits. Their faces were blank, professional. They moved like soldiers. Miss Hartfield, one of them said. His voice was polite, almost kind. Mr. Alvarez would like to see you. Lena pressed herself against the wall. I don't want to see him. That's not a request. Her heart hammered. What does he want? The man didn't answer. He simply gestured toward the door. Lena looked at the open space behind them. She thought about running, about screaming, but the other man's hand rested on something beneath his jacket, and she understood. She was already caught. They escorted her downstairs. The neighbors watched through cracked doors, then quickly shut them. No one would help. No one could. The black car waited. They opened the door for her. She climbed in. The interior smelled like leather and cigarettes. The windows were tinted. She couldn't see out. One of the men sat beside her. The other drove. No one spoke. The city passed in silence. Lena's mind raced. She thought about her mother in the hospital, about the bills, about the tiny life she'd built from nothing. She thought about the man at the bus stop, about his cold eyes, about the way he'd smiled when she challenged him. The car stopped. They led her into a building she didn't recognize. Old, industrial, the kind of place that had been abandoned by daylight. Inside, the air was cool. The lights were dim. She was taken down a hallway, through a heavy door, into a room that felt too large, too quiet. And there he was, Dominic Alvarez. He stood by a window, looking out at nothing. His hands were in his pockets. His posture was relaxed, but there was something coiled beneath it, something dangerous. When he turned, his eyes found hers immediately. He studied her the way a scientist studies a specimen. Curious, detached. Sit, he said. Lena didn't move. Sit, Lena. The sound of her name in his mouth made her skin crawl. She's Saturday. He walked closer, slowly, deliberately. You don't remember me, he said. I remember. Do you? The bus stop. The coffee shop. He nodded. And what did you say to me? Lena's throat tightened. I didn't mean anything by it. Yes, you did. He crouched in front of her. Eye level now. His gaze didn't waver. You looked at me, he said quietly, and you saw someone you hated. Someone who had everything while you had nothing. And you wanted to hurt me. Even just a little. Lena's breath came shallow. I'm sorry, she whispered. No, you're not. He stood, walked to a desk, poured himself a drink. Do you know who I am? He asked. I've heard. Then you know why you're here. Lena's hands clenched in her lap. Are you going to kill me? Dominic looked at her over the rim of his glass. Not yet. The words hung in the air like smoke. He set the glass down, leaned against the desk. You insulted me, he said. In public. In front of people who work for me. People who need to believe I am untouchable. I didn't know. Ignorance isn't an excuse. Lena's eyes burned. Then what do you want from me? Dominic tilted his head. I haven't decided yet. He moved closer again. This time, he didn't crouch. He stood over her, and she felt the weight of his presence like a storm cloud. You're in debt, he said. $60,000. Medical bills. Your mother's dying. Lena's chest tightened. How do you? I know everything about you, Lena. Where you wake, where you sleep, the name of the nurse who checks on your mother every Thursday. Tears spilled over. She hated them, hated how weak they made her. Please, she said, whatever you're going to do, just leave her alone. She's not part of this. Dominic watched her cry. His expression didn't change. I could make your debt disappear, he said softly. Lena looked up. I could pay for her treatments. The best doctors. The best care. Hope flickered, then died. What do you want in return? Dominic smiled. It was the same smile from the bus stop. You. The words settled over her like a shroud. For how long? She whispered. Until I'm satisfied. Lena's mind spun. This wasn't a choice. It was a cage dressed as mercy. And if I refuse? Dominic's smile faded. Then your mother dies in pain. Your debt crushes you. And you spend the rest of your life wondering if you could have saved her. Lena closed her eyes. She thought about her mother's face. About the way she smiled even through the agony. She thought about the weight of $60,000. She thought about survival. Okay, she whispered. Dominic nodded. Good. He gestured to the men by the door. Take her to the house. Lena stood on shaking legs. Wait, what house? Dominic looked at her one last time. Mine. And just like that, her life was no longer hers. The men led her away, back into the car, into the night, and Lena understood, with a clarity that burned, that she had traded one kind of captivity for another. But at least her mother would live. At least someone would survive this, even if it wasn't her. The house was not what Lena expected. She had imagined something cold, industrial, a place that matched the hardness in Dominic's eyes. Instead, it was beautiful. It sat on the edge of the city, surrounded by trees that swayed in the wind like sentinels. The driveway was long. The gates were iron. The house itself was stone and glass, old-world elegance wrapped in modern severity. Inside, everything was pristine. Marble floors, high ceilings, furniture that looked untouched. The kind of home that didn't feel lived in, only occupied. The men who brought her there said nothing. They led her upstairs, down a hallway lined with closed doors. They stopped at one. This is yours, one of them said. Lena stepped inside. The room was larger than her entire apartment. A king-sized bed, a window that overlooked the grounds, a bathroom with a tub big enough to drown in. Everything was white, clean, empty. Mr. Alvarez will send for you when he's ready, the man said. Then they left. Lena stood in the center of the room, listening to the silence. She thought about running, about breaking the window and climbing out. But she knew better. There were men outside. Cameras. Locks she couldn't see but could feel. This wasn't a house. It was a cage wrapped in luxury. She sat on the edge of the bed and put her face in her hands. For the first time in years, she let herself break. She cried until there was nothing left. Then she lay down and stayed at the ceiling. Time moved differently here. Minutes felt like hours. Hours felt like days. No one came. No one spoke to her. Meals appeared on a tray outside her door. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. She ate because her body demanded it, not because she tasted anything. She tried the door once. It wasn't locked. She walked downstairs. The house was silent, empty. She wandered through rooms that felt like museums. A library with books no one read. A dining room with a table for 12. A sitting room with a fireplace that had never been lit. She found a door that led outside. Opened it. Stepped onto the patio. The air was cold. Clean. She looked at the trees. The sky. The iron gates in the distance. You're free to walk the grounds. Lena spun. Dominic stood behind her. She hadn't heard him approach. He was dressed differently now. No suit, just a dark shirt and slacks. He looked almost human. Almost. But don't try to leave, he added. Lena's jaw tightened. What am I supposed to do here? Whatever you want. I want to go home. That's not an option. She turned away, stayed at the trees again. How long? She asked. I told you. Until I'm satisfied. Satisfied with what? Dominic didn't answer. He walked past her, down the steps, into the garden. Lena watched him go. She hated him. Hated the way he moved. The way he spoke. The way he controlled everything without lifting a finger. But she also hated herself. For agreeing. For surrendering. For not fighting harder. Days bled into each other. Lena woke. Ate. Walked the grounds. Returned to her room. Sometimes she saw Dominic. Sometimes she didn't. When she did, he never spoke first. He would simply appear, watching her from across a room, and then leave without explanation. She began to understand that this was part of it. The silence. The waiting. He wanted her to break. But Lena had been breaking for years. She was used to it. On the 5th day, he came to her room. Knocked once. Entered without waiting for permission. Lena sat by the window. She didn't turn. You've been quiet, he said. What do you want me to say? Anything. I have nothing to say to you. Dominic moved closer. She felt him behind her. You're angry, he said. Of course I'm angry. Good. Lena turned. Looked at him. Why is that good? Because anger means you're still alive. He sat on the edge of her bed. Casual. As if they were friends. Your mother's treatment started yesterday, he said. The doctors say she's responding well. Lena's chest tightened. You're lying. I don't lie. Then prove it. Dominic pulled out his phone. Showed her a photograph. Her mother. In a hospital bed. Smiling. A nurse beside her. Lena's vision blurred. She looks better. She is better. Lena looked away. Wiped her eyes. Why are you doing this? She whispered. Because I can. That's not an answer. Dominic leaned back. Studied her. You insulted me, he said. And instead of forgetting it, I remembered you. I remembered the way you looked at me. Like I was nothing. Lena's throat tightened. No one looks at me like that, he continued. Not anymore. So this is revenge. No, this is curiosity. He stood, walked to the door. You'll eat dinner with me tonight, he said. I'm not hungry. That wasn't a request. He left. Lena sat in the silence. She thought about her mother's smile, about the way the nurse stood beside her, about the price of that smile. At 7, someone knocked. A woman this time. Middle-aged. Kind eyes. "Mr. Alvarez is waiting," she said gently. Lena followed her downstairs. The dining room was lit by candles. The table was set for two. Dominic sat at one end. He gestured to the chair beside him. Lena Saturday. The woman brought food. Pasta. Wine. Bread that smelled like heaven. Lena ate in silence. Dominic watched her. "Do you always stare at people while they eat?" she asked. "Only the interesting ones." "I'm not interesting." "You are to me." Lena set down her fork. "What do you want from me, Dominic?" He tilted his head. "I don't know yet." That's a terrifying answer. "I know." He poured her wine. She didn't drink it. "Tell me about yourself," he said. "Why?" "Because I asked." Lena laughed bitterly. "You already know everything." "I know facts. I want to know you." Lena looked at him. Really looked at him. His eyes weren't cold anymore. They were something worse. Curious. Hungry. And Lena realized, with a chill that sank into her bones, that this was more dangerous than anger. Because anger she could survive. But his interest? That might consume her. If stories like this have already found a place in your heart, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below for more stories that stay long after they end. Lena began to notice things. Small things. Details that shouldn't have mattered but did. The way Dominic took his coffee. Black. No sugar. The way he stood by windows, always looking out, never at the room behind him. The way his jaw tightened when his phone rang, and the way he silenced it without looking. She noticed because she had nothing else to do. Because captivity made every moment stretch. Because observation was the only power she had left. They ate dinner together every night now. Not because she wanted to. Because he insisted. And Lena, despite herself, began to anticipate it. Not the food. Not the wine. But the conversation. Dominic asked questions. Not the surface kind, but the ones that dug. "What did you want to be?" he asked one night. "Before what?" "Before life got in the way." Lena hesitated. "A writer." "Why didn't you?" "Because rent doesn't pay itself." Dominic nodded. Didn't push. But the next day, a laptop appeared in her room. Brand new. Still in the box. A note beside it. Asterisk asterisk right. Asterisk asterisk. Lena stayed at it for an hour. Then she opened it. And for the first time in years, she wrote. Not about her life. Not about the cage. About someone else. Somewhere else. A woman who ran. Who fought. Who won. She wrote until her fingers ached. And when she stopped, the silence felt different. Less suffocating. Almost bearable. Dominic never asked to read what she wrote. But she knew he knew. Because one morning, a stack of books appeared outside her door. All by her favorite authors. Some she'd read. Some she'd only dreamed of reading. She didn't thank him. But she read them. And when they passed each other in the hallways, something unspoken moved between them. Not friendship. Not trust. But recognition. The house began to feel less like a prison. Lena walked the grounds every day. Through the garden. Past the fountain. To the edge of the property where the gate stood tall and locked. She never tried to leave. Not because she didn't want to. But because she knew it wouldn't work. And because, somewhere deep inside, a part of her was afraid of what leaving would mean. Her mother was healing. If Lena ran, that would end. So she stayed. And she hated herself for it. One night, during dinner, Dominic was quieter than usual. Lena noticed. "Something wrong?" she asked. He looked at her, surprised. "Why do you ask?" "You're not yourself." "You don't know me well enough to know what myself is." Lena shrugged. "Maybe not. But I know when someone's distracted." Dominic leaned back. Studied her. "There's a problem," he said finally. "With what?" "Work." "You mean your illegal empire?" A flicker of amusement crossed his face. Something like that. Lena sipped her wine. Are you in danger? I'm always in danger. That's not an answer. Dominic smiled. Small. Genuine. You sound concerned. I'm not. Liar. Lena looked away. Because he was right. And she hated that he was right. Later that night, Lena couldn't sleep. She went downstairs. Found the library. Dominic was there. He sat in a leather chair, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He stared at the fireplace, though no fire burned. Lena almost left. But something stopped her. Can't sleep either, she asked. Dominic glanced at her. No. She stepped inside, sat in the chair across from him. Tell me about it, she said. About what? The problem. Dominic's eyes narrowed. Why do you care? I don't. I'm just bored. He laughed. Low. Rough. You're a terrible liar, Lena. She didn't argue. Dominic drank. Set the glass down. There's someone, he said. Someone who thinks I'm weak. Who thinks he can take what's mine. Can he? No. Then what's the problem? He's willing to burn everything to try. Lena watched him. The tension in his shoulders. The way his hands clenched. You're afraid, she said quietly. Dominic's eyes snapped to hers. I'm not afraid. Yes, you are. Not of him. Of what you'll have to do. Silence. Dominic stood. Walked to the window. You don't know what I'm capable of, he said. I can imagine. No, you can't. Lena stood. Walked closer. Then tell me. Dominic turned. Looked at her. And for the first time, she saw something in his eyes that wasn't cold. It was pain. Old. Buried. I've killed people, Lena, he said quietly. Not in self-defense. Not because I had to, but because it was easier. Because it sent a message. Lena's breath caught. I've hurt people who didn't deserve it, he continued. I've destroyed lives. Families. He stepped closer. And I'll do it again. Because that's who I am. Lena's heart pounded. Why are you telling me this? Because you asked. That's not why. Dominic's jaw tightened. Because I want you to see me, he said. Not the version you've built in your head. Not the man who saved your mother, but the real me. Lena looked at him. Really looked at him. And she saw a man who had lived in shadows for so long. He'd forgotten what light felt like. I see you, she whispered. Dominic's expression cracked. Just for a moment. Then he turned away. Go to bed, Lena. She didn't move. Dominic. Go. Lena left. But she didn't sleep. Because something had shifted. In him. In her. And she was terrified of what it meant. If you've ever felt torn between fear and love, you'll understand her. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Dominic disappeared for 3 days. No warning. No explanation. Lena woke one morning and he was gone. The house felt different without him. Emptier. She tried to ignore it. Tried to tell herself she was relieved. But the silence pressed in. The woman who brought her meals, her name was Rosa, said nothing when Lena asked where he'd gone. He'll be back, was all she said. Lena spent the days writing, walking, thinking about the way Dominic had looked at her in the library, about the pain in his voice when he spoke about the things he'd done, about how, for just a moment, he'd let her see beneath the armor. And she realized, with a jolt that made her stomach twist, that she was starting to understand him. Not forgive him, but understand. On the third night, she heard a car pull up. She went to the window. Dominic stepped out. Slower than usual. His shirt was untucked. His face was bruised. Blood stained his collar. Lena's breath caught. She ran downstairs. Found him in the hallway. He looked at her, surprised. You're hurt, she said. I'm fine. You're bleeding. It's not mine. Lena's stomach turned, but she didn't step back. Come on, she said. Where? Sit down. Let me clean that. Dominic frowned. I don't need. Sit down. He Saturday. Lena found a first aid kit in the bathroom. Came back. Knelt in front of him. Dominic watched her as she cleaned the cut on his cheek. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. I know. Then why are you? Lena didn't answer. Because she didn't know. Or maybe she did, and she was too afraid to say it. She pressed a bandage to his cheek. Her fingers lingered. Dominic's hand caught her wrist. Gently. Lena. She looked up. Their faces were close. Too close. She pulled away. Stood. You should rest, she said. Lena. Good night, Dominic. She left before he could stop her. Back in her room, she pressed her back against the door and tried to steady her breathing. Her hands were shaking. Not from fear. From something else. Something she refused to name. The next morning, Dominic was different. Quieter. Gentler. He didn't push. Didn't press. But his eyes followed her. And Lena felt the weight of that gaze like a physical thing. They fell into a new rhythm. Breakfast together. Silence, but comfortable. Dinners where they talked about nothing. Everything. He told her about his childhood. Not the dark parts, but the small ones. A dog he'd had when he was 7. A teacher who believed in him when no one else did. A sister who died young. Lena listened. And she told him things too. About her father who left when she was 12. About her mother's laugh before the sickness. About the way she used to write stories in the margins of her school notebooks. They weren't friends, but they weren't enemies anymore either. And that terrified Lena more than anything. Because it would have been easier if she still hated him. Easier if he were only the man who had taken her. But he wasn't. He was complicated. Broken. Human. And so was she. One night, they walked the grounds together. The moon was full. The air was cold. Dominic's shoulder brushed hers. I'm sorry, he said suddenly. Lena stopped. For what? For bringing you here. For everything. Lena looked at him. If you're sorry, let me go. Dominic's jaw tightened. I can't. Why not? Because I'm selfish. Lena's chest ached. You're honest, she said quietly. I'll give you that. They walked in silence. Then Dominic stopped. Turned to face her. If I let you go, he said, would you stay? Lena's breath caught. That's not fair. I know. Why are you asking? Because I need to know. Lena looked at him. At the man who had taken everything from her. Who had given her everything she needed. Who was both her captor and her savior. I don't know, she whispered. Dominic nodded. That's answer enough. He walked away, and Lena stood in the cold, wondering when everything had gotten so complicated, wondering when she'd started to care, wondering if she'd ever be free, not from the house, but from him. If your heart's racing too, take a breath, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below for more unforgettable love stories. The first sign of trouble came on a Tuesday. Lena woke to the sound of raised voices downstairs. She crept to the hallway, listened. Dominic's voice, sharp and cold. I don't care what he wants. Tell him no. Another voice, unfamiliar. His not asking, dumb. His demanding. Then let him demand. I'm not giving him anything. He'll retaliate. Let him try. Silence. Then footsteps. Lena slipped back into her room before anyone saw her. Her heart pounded. She didn't know who *E* was, but she knew enough to be afraid. At breakfast, Dominic was distracted. He barely touched his food. What's happening? Lena asked. Nothing you need to worry about. That's not true. Dominic looked at her. It's not your fight. I'm here, aren't I? That makes it mine. Dominic's expression softened. Just slightly. I'm handling it. That's what scares me. He reached across the table, took her hand. It was the first time he'd touched her since that night in the hallway. I won't let anything happen to you, he said quietly. Lena wanted to believe him, but belief was a luxury she couldn't afford. That night, Dominic didn't come to dinner. Rosa brought Lena's food with trembling hands. Is he okay? Lena asked. Rosa wouldn't meet her eyes. His managing things. What things? It's better if you don't know, miss. Lena's stomach twisted. She ate alone. The silence felt suffocating. After, she went looking for him. Found him in his office. A room she'd never been allowed in before. The door was ajar. She pushed it open. Dominic stood behind a massive desk, phone pressed to his ear. His voice was ice. I don't negotiate with threats, Marco. You know this. Pause. Then you'll have war. He ended the call. Threw the phone down. Turned. Saw her. Lena. Get out. No. This isn't a request. I don't care. Dominic's eyes flashed. You don't understand what's happening. Then explain it to me. Why? So you can worry? So you can look at me with those eyes that see too much? Lena stepped inside, closed the door behind her. Tell me. Dominic stared at her. Then he laughed. Bitter. Exhausted. There's a man, he said. Marco Vitelli. He thinks I'm standing in his way. Are you? Yes. Of what? Territory. Money. Power. The usual things men kill for. Lena's throat tightened. And what does he want? Me. Dead or broken. He doesn't care which. Can he do it? Dominic's jaw clenched. He can try. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Lena moved closer. How bad is this? Dominic looked at her. Really looked at her. Bad enough that I should send you away. Then why don't you? Because I'm selfish, he said again. Because having you here makes this bearable. Lena's chest ached. Dominic. You should hate me, he said quietly. You should want me dead. Maybe I should. But you don't. Lena didn't answer. Because he was right. And she couldn't explain it. Couldn't explain how fear had twisted into something else. How captivity had become comfort. How the man who had stolen her freedom had become the only person who truly saw her. I don't understand this, she whispered. Neither do I. Dominic crossed the distance between them. Stood so close she could feel the heat of him. But I'm done pretending, he said. His hand came up. Touched her face. Gentle. Reverent. I'm done pretending this is just curiosity, he continued. Done pretending you're just a consequence of my pride. Lena's breath caught. Then what am I? Everything I shouldn't want, he said. And the only thing I do. His thumb traced her cheekbone. Lena closed her eyes. She should push him away. Should run. Should remember who he was. What he'd done. But his touch was gentle. And she was so tired of fighting. This is wrong, she whispered. I know. You took everything from me. I know. I should hate you. You should. Lena opened her eyes. But I don't. Dominic's expression cracked. He leaned down. His forehead touched hers. God help me, he breathed. I don't deserve you. No, you don't. But I need you. Lena's hands came up, rested on his chest. She could feel his heartbeat. Fast, desperate. I need you too, she whispered. And I hate that I do. Dominic pulled back just enough to look at her. Then hate me, he said. But stay. Lena's eyes burned. I don't have a choice. Yes, you do. You've always had a choice. That's not true. Isn't it? His hand cupped her face. The door's never been locked, Lena. Not really. Lena's breath stuttered. Because he was right. She could have run, could have tried, but she'd stayed. Not because of her mother, not because of fear, but because some part of her, some traitorous, broken part, wanted to. I hate you for this, she said. I know. For making me feel this way. I know. For making me. Dominic kissed her. Soft, tentative, like he was afraid she'd disappear. Lena froze. Then she kissed him back, and everything else fell away. The fear, the anger, the confusion, all of it burned down to this. To his hands and her hair, to her fingers clutching his shirt, to the way they fit together like broken pieces finally finding their match. When they broke apart, both breathless, Dominic rested his forehead against Hayes again. I'm sorry, he whispered. For what? For everything. For the way this started. For. Stop. Lena pulled back, looked at him. I'm not ready to forgive you, she said. I may never be. I know. But I'm also not ready to let you go. Dominic's eyes closed. When he opened them, they were wet. Stay with me, he said. Through whatever's coming. I'm not going anywhere. He kissed her again, slower this time, deeper, and Lena let herself drown. Because for the first time since she'd been brought here, she wasn't afraid. She was terrified for entirely different reasons, but she wasn't afraid of him anymore. Later, when they lay together on the couch in his office, her head on his chest, Dominic spoke into the darkness. Marco will come, he said. Soon. I know. It will be violent. I know. You could still leave. Lena's hand pressed against his heartbeat. I told you. I'm staying. Dominic's arms tightened around her. Then I'll keep you safe, he said. No matter what it costs. Lena closed her eyes. She didn't tell him she was afraid. Didn't tell him that she'd finally found something worth having, and now she might lose it. Didn't tell him that somewhere along the way, she'd stopped being his captive, and started being his, not because he'd taken her, but because she'd chosen to stay. Before we close this chapter, take a moment, like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below. Every small gesture helps the next story find its way to you. The attack came 3 days later. Lena woke to the sound of glass shattering. Shouts. Gunfire. Her heart stopped. She ran to the window. Cars. Black. 4 of them. Men pouring out like shadows made flesh. More gunfire. The house shook. Lena's door burst open. Rosa. Eyes wide with terror. Come. Now. What's happening? No time. Come. Rosa pulled her into the hallway. Dominic's men moved with military precision. Weapons drawn. Faces hard. One of them grabbed Lena's arm. Basement. Now. Where's Dominic? Handling it. Move. They rushed her downstairs. Through the kitchen. Down another set of stairs she'd never seen. Into a room lined with concrete. Safe room. Rosa held her hand. Both of them shaking. Above them, the world exploded. Gunfire. Constant. Deafening. Shouting. Crashes. The sound of things breaking. Lena pressed her hands over her ears. Dominic, she whispered. Where's he? Rosa didn't answer. Time became meaningless. Minutes felt like hours. Then, silence. So sudden it hurt. Lena looked at Rosa. Is it over? I don't know. Footsteps on the stairs. Heavy. Deliberate. Rosa pulled Lena behind her. The door opened. One of Dominic's men. Blood on his face. It's Clay. And Mr. Alvarez. Rosa asked. The man's expression darkened. Alive. But you need to come. Lena's blood turned to ice. They were led upstairs. The house was destroyed. Windows shattered. Furniture overturned. Bullet holes in the walls. Blood on the marble floor. Bodies. Lena looked away. They found Dominic in the sitting room. He leaned against the wall, one hand pressed to his side. Red seeped through his fingers. Lena's breath caught. She ran to him. Dominic. I'm fine. You're bleeding. I've had worse. His face was pale. Sweat beaded his forehead. We need a doctor, Lena said. Already called, one of his men said. 10 minutes out. Lena knelt beside Dominic. Her hands hovered over his wound. Let me see. Lena. Let me see. He moved his hand. The wound was deep, angry. Lena's vision blurred. You're going to be okay, she said. I know. You have to be okay. Dominic's hand came up, touched her face, left a streak of blood on her cheek. I'm not going anywhere, he said quietly. Lena pressed her forehead to his. You better not. The doctor arrived, stitched Dominic up in the sitting room. No hospital. Too many questions. Lena stayed beside him the entire time, holding his hand. When it was done, when Dominic was bandaged and medicated, they moved him upstairs, to his room, a room Lena had never been in before. It was simpler than she expected. Dark, minimal, human. They laid him in bed. Lena sat beside him. You should rest, he said. So should you. I'm serious, Lena. You've been through. Don't. She squeezed his hand. I'm not leaving. Dominic looked at her. Something shifted in his expression. Thank you, he whispered. Lena didn't answer, just held his hand tighter. He fell asleep with his fingers wrapped around hers, and Lena watched him breathe, counted each inhale, each exhale. Proof he was alive. Proof they'd survived. In the morning, Dominic woke to find her still there, asleep in the chair beside his bed, her hand still holding his. He watched her for a long time. This woman who should have run, who should have hated him, but who stayed anyway, who'd looked at him last night like his life mattered, like he mattered. He'd spent so long being feared, being obeyed, but never seen. Not like this. Lena stared, opened her eyes. You're awake, she said. So are you. How do you feel? Like I got shot. Lena's mouth twitched, almost a smile. That's because you did. Dominic shifted, winced. Come here, he said. You need to rest. I need you. Lena hesitated. Then she climbed into the bed beside him. Carefully, gently, Dominic's arm came around her, pulled her close. I was terrified, she whispered against his chest. I know. When I heard the gunfire, when I didn't know if you were. Her voice broke. Dominic kissed the top of her head. I'm here, he said. I'm here. They lay in silence. Two people who'd found each other in the worst way possible. Who'd hurt each other. Who'd saved each other. What happens now? Lena asked. I don't know. Will Marco try again? Probably. And will you? She couldn't finish. Dominic understood anyway. I'll do what I have to, he said quietly. To keep you safe. To keep us safe. Lena closed her eyes. I don't want you to be that person anymore. What person? The one who kills. Who destroys. Dominic was quiet for a long moment. I don't know if I can be anyone else, he said finally. You can try. For you. For yourself. Dominic's chest rose and fell beneath her cheek. What if trying isn't enough? He asked. Then at least you tried. His arms tightened around her. You make me want to be better, he whispered. Then be better. It's not that simple. Nothing ever is. They stayed like that until the sun was high, until Dominic's men came knocking, until reality demanded his attention. But for those hours, they were just two people, broken and scared and trying to figure out what love looked like when it grew in the dark. Dominic healed slowly. The wound in his side turned from angry red to pink. But something else healed too. Something neither of them spoke about, but both felt. The distance between them closed. Lena no longer slept in her room. She stayed with Dominic. Not because he asked, but because being apart felt wrong. They'd talk late into the night. About everything. About nothing. About who they'd been before the world made them hard. Dominic told her about his father, a man who'd beaten him for showing weakness, who'd taught him that power was the only thing that mattered, that love was a liability. He was wrong, Lena said one night. Was he? Yes. Dominic looked at her. How do you know? Because you're here, with me, alive, and you're choosing something different. I haven't chosen anything yet. Yes, you have. Every day you choose not to send me away. Dominic pulled her closer. I couldn't send you away if I tried. Lena smiled against his chest. Good. But the peace was fragile. Marco Vitelli was still out there, waiting, planning. Dominic's men brought reports. Marco was gathering allies, building an army, preparing for war. Let him come, Dominic said during a meeting Lena wasn't supposed to hear. She listened from the hallway anyway. We'll end this, once and for all. That means blood, Dom, one of his men said. A lot of it. I know. You sure you want to go that route? There might be another way. There's no other way. Not with Marco. Silence. Then, what about the girl? Lena's breath caught. What about her? Dominic's voice turned cold. Just saying. She's a weakness. If Marco finds out. He won't. But if he does, then I'll kill anyone who touches her. The certainty in his voice made Lena's chest tighten. After the meeting, she confronted him. I heard what you said. Dominic didn't look surprised. You were listening. Of course I was. Then you know what's coming. I know you're planning something stupid. It's not stupid. It's necessary. Lena grabbed his arm. Dominic, please. There has to be another way. There isn't. You don't know that. Yes, I do. He turned to face her. Marco won't stop. Not until one of us is dead. Then let someone else handle it. Your men. No. Why not? Because I won't ask anyone to die for my mistakes. Lena's eyes burned. This isn't your mistake. He started this. I built this life, Dominic said quietly. Every choice I made led here. That makes it mine. And what about me? Lena asked. What happens to me if you die? Dominic's jaw clenched. You'll be free. I don't want to be free. I want you alive. The words hung between them. Raw. Honest. Dominic pulled her close. I'm going to fix this, he said against her hair. And then we'll figure out what comes next. Promise me you'll be careful. I promise. But Lena knew better than to believe promises made in the dark. 2 days later, Dominic left. Before dawn, Lena woke to find his side of the bed empty. A note on the pillow. Asterisk asterisk. Stay inside. Trust Rosa. I'll be back before sunset. Asterisk asterisk. Lena's hands shook. She dressed quickly. Found Rosa in the kitchen. Where did he go? Rosa wouldn't meet her eyes. To end things. With Marco? Yes. Is he alone? No. He took his best men. Lena's chest tightened. How many? 20. And how many does Marco have? Rosa hesitated. Rosa, how many? 50. Maybe more. Lena's world tilted. He's going to get himself killed. He knows what he's doing. No, he doesn't. He's doing this because he thinks he has to protect me. Rosa finally looked at her. And he does. Marco knows about you, miss. One of Dom's men talked before he died. Lena's blood ran cold. What? Marco knows you matter to him. Knows you're his weakness. Then Dominic's walking into a trap. Maybe. Or maybe he's setting one. Lena paced. Her mind raced. She couldn't just sit here. Couldn't wait. Couldn't let him die for her. I need a car, she said. No. Rosa, please. Mr. Alvarez said. I don't care what he said. He's going to die if I don't. If you don't what? You think you can stop this? Lena's hands clenched. I have to try. Rosa studied her, then sighed. There are keys in the drawer. Take the sedan. Stay off main roads. Thank you. Don't thank me. If he survives this, he'll kill me for letting you go. Lena ran, grabbed the keys, found the sedan, drove toward the city, toward whatever waited, toward him, because love, she'd learned, wasn't gentle. It was desperate and stupid and reckless. It was driving toward danger because sitting in safety felt like death. She didn't have a plan, didn't have a weapon, didn't have anything except the certainty that she couldn't lose him. Not now. Not after everything. The warehouse district loomed ahead. Abandoned buildings. Empty streets. The perfect place for violence. Lena parked 2 blocks away. Ran. She heard the gunfire before she saw anything. Rapid. Constant. Shouts. Screams. She followed the sound. Turned a corner. And stopped. The warehouse ahead was a war zone. Bodies on the ground. Dominic's men behind cover, firing at shadows. And in the center of it all, Dominic. Blood on his face. Gun in his hand. Moving like death itself. Lena's breath caught. Then she saw him. Marco Vitelli. Tall. Cold. A gun aimed at Dominic's back. Dominic didn't see him. Didn't know. Lena's body moved before her mind could stop it. She screamed. Dominic. He turned. Saw Marco. Raised his gun. Too slow. Marco fired. The bullet tore through the air. Lena ran. Threw herself forward. Between them. The impact hit her chest. White hot. Blinding. She fell. Heard Dominic scream her name. Heard gunfire. Heard everything and nothing. Then darkness. And silence. And the terrifying thought that she'd saved him. But lost herself. Lena woke to whiteness. Sterile light. The smell of antiseptic. Pain radiated through her chest with every breath. She tried to move. A hand pressed gently against her shoulder. Don't. Dominic's voice. Wrecked. Raw. Lena turned her head. He sat beside her bed. Eyes red-rimmed. Face haggard. You're alive, she whispered. So are you. Barely. Lena tried to smile. It hurt. What happened? You took a bullet meant for me. His voice cracked. You ran into a gunfight. For me. I couldn't let him kill you. You almost died, Lena. But I didn't. Dominic's head dropped. His shoulders shook. He was crying. Lena had never seen him cry. Dominic. I thought I lost you, he choked out. I held you while you bled. While you stopped breathing. While the paramedics. He couldn't finish. Lena reached for him with the hand that didn't have an fall. He took it, pressed it to his face. I'm sorry, he said. I'm so sorry. For what? For all of it. For taking you. For keeping you. For making you care enough to. Stop. Lena squeezed his hand. I don't regret it, she said. Dominic looked at her, disbelieving. You almost died. I know. Because of me. No. Because of me. Because I chose to. That doesn't make it better. Maybe not. But it's the truth. Dominic kissed her hand. Her wrist. Her palm. Like he was memorizing her. Like he was afraid she'd disappear. Marco? Lena asked. Dead. And the others? Most of them. The rest scattered. So it's over. Dominic nodded. It's over. Lena closed her eyes. Relief flooded through her. They'd survived. Somehow, impossibly, they'd survived. What now? She whispered. Dominic was quiet for a long moment. Now you rest, he said finally. You heal. And then, he looked at her. Then you decide. Decide what? If you stay. Lena's breath caught. You'd let me go. I should have let you go from the beginning. But you didn't. No, I didn't. And now. Dominic's thumb traced circles on her hand. Now I know what it's like to lose you, he said quietly. And I know I can't survive it again. So you'll let me choose. Yes. And if I choose to leave? Pain flashed across his face. Then I'll let you go. I'll pay for your mother's care. Forever. I'll make sure you're safe. That you're free. And if I stay? Dominic leaned closer. Then I'll spend every day trying to deserve you. Lena's eyes burned. You won't, she said. He flinched. You won't deserve me, she continued. Not fully. Not after how this started. Dominic nodded. Started to pull away. Lena held his hand tighter. But I'll stay anyway. He froze. What? I'll stay. Not because I have to, but because I want to. Lena. I love you, she said. Simple. True. I don't know when it happened. Maybe when you told me about your sister. Maybe when you let me see your pain. Maybe the moment you kissed me. Tears streamed down her face. Or maybe it was before all that. Maybe it was that night at the bus stop, when you looked at me like I was real, like I mattered. Dominic's hand trembled in hers. You do matter, he whispered. You're everything. Then don't send me away. But you deserve better. You deserve. I deserve to choose, Lena said firmly. And I choose you. Broken. Complicated. Impossible you. Dominic made a sound between a laugh and a sob. He leaned down. Kissed her. Gentle. Desperate. I love you, he said against her lips. I love you so much it terrifies me. Good. We'll be terrified together. He laughed. Really laughed. And Lena felt warmth spread through her chest. Not from the bullet wound, but from hope. Days passed. Lena healed. Slowly. Painfully. But Dominic was there for every moment. He read to her. Brought her food. Held her hand through the nightmares. Rosa visited. Brought flowers. You're a fool, she told Lena. But a brave one. Is there a difference? Sometimes. Lena smiled. When she was strong enough, Dominic took her home. Not to the house she'd been kept in. To a new one. Smaller. Warmer. Filled with light. I bought it last week, he said. I thought if you stayed, we could start over. Here. Somewhere that isn't tainted by how we began. Lena looked at the house. At the garden. The windows. The front door painted blue. It's perfect, she whispered. They moved in together. Not as captor and captive, but as partners. Equals. Two people building something new from the wreckage of what they'd been. Dominic stepped back from his empire. Not completely, but enough. He let others manage things. Make decisions. He spent his days with Lena instead. Learning to be human again. Learning to live without violence. It wasn't easy. Some nights he woke shaking, haunted by the things he'd done. Lena held him through those nights. You're not that person anymore, she'd tell him. How do you know? Because that person wouldn't care. And you do. Slowly, he believed her. Lena wrote again. Not just fragments, but full stories. About redemption. About love. About finding light in the darkest places. Dominic read everything she wrote. This is beautiful, he'd say. It's about us. I know. They visited her mother together. She was stronger now. Clear-eyed. Smiling. She took one look at Dominic and Lena's joined hands and said, So this is him. Yes, Lena said. Her mother studied Dominic. You hurt my daughter. I did. Do you love her? More than anything. Her mother nodded. Then take care of her, or I'll find you. Dominic smiled. Yes, Afterward, Lena asked, "Was that terrifying?" "Absolutely." "Good." Months passed, then a year. The fear faded. The past became story instead of wound. On a night in autumn, Dominic took Lena to the place where they'd first met. The bus stop. The coffee shop. "Why are we here?" she asked. "Because this is where it started." What started? Everything. He turned to face her, pulled a small box from his pocket. Lena's breath caught. "I can't erase the past," Dominic said. "I can't change how we began, but I can choose how we continue." He opened the box. A ring. Simple. Beautiful. "Marry me," he said. "Not because you're trapped. Not because you're afraid. But because you want to. Because you choose me. Every day. The way I choose you." Lena's vision blurred. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes. Yes." He slipped the ring on her finger, kissed her under the streetlights, and Lena thought about fate, about how sometimes the worst moments lead to the best ones, about how love doesn't always look like the stories say it should. Sometimes it grows in the dark. Sometimes it starts with fear and ends with choice. Sometimes it saves you when you least expect it. If stories like this linger in your heart long after they end, don't leave just yet. Like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below, and let the next story find you when the night grows quiet again. The wedding was small. Just Rosa, Lena's mother, a handful of Dominic's men who'd become something like family. No cathedral, no crowd, just a garden at sunset and words that mattered. When Dominic said, "I do," his voice shook. When Lena said it back, she meant it with everything she was. They danced under string lights while Rosa cried and her mother smiled. And for the first time in either of their lives, the future felt possible. They honeymooned nowhere special. Just drove, for days, through small towns and empty highways, stopping wherever they wanted, sleeping in cheap motels and expensive hotels, and once, memorably, in the car under the stars. "I never thought I'd have this," Dominic said one night. They lay on a blanket in a field, watching constellations wheel overhead. "Have what?" Lena asked. "Peace." She turned to look at him. His face was relaxed, younger somehow. "Do you miss it?" she asked. "Miss what?" "The power, the control, the fear." Dominic was quiet. "Sometimes," he admitted, "it was easier, being feared. You don't have to be vulnerable when people are afraid of you. And now I'm vulnerable every day. Every time I look at you and realize you could leave. Every time I remember I almost lost you." He rolled toward her. "But I wouldn't trade it," he said. "This terrifies me more than anything I've ever done. But it's real, and I've never had real before." Lena kissed him. "Soft. Sure. You have it now." They returned home to their house with the blue door, to a life that was ordinary and extraordinary at once. Lena published her first book, a love story that wasn't quite their story but felt like it anyway. It sold modestly. Enough. She started a second. Dominic invested in legitimate businesses, a restaurant, a bookstore, things that built up instead of tore down. He met with lawyers, accountants, people who helped him launder his past into something legal. It took time. Some things couldn't be erased. But slowly, quietly, he became someone different. Not innocent. Never innocent. But clean enough. They fought sometimes. About small things. Big things. About the way Dominic still struggled to talk about his feelings. About the way Lena still woke with nightmares about the night she was shot. But they always came back together. Always chose each other again. "Marriage is work," Lena's mother told her once. "Every day, you choose. Every day, you build." What if one day we stopped choosing? Lena asked. Her mother smiled. "You won't. I've seen the way he looks at you. Like you hung the moon. That doesn't fade." And it didn't. 2 years after their wedding, Lena got pregnant. She told Dominic over breakfast, casually, like it wasn't the most important thing in the world. He dropped his coffee mug. It shattered on the floor. You're pregnant? Yes. Dominic stayed at her. Then he started crying. Happy tears this time. We're having a baby. We're having a baby. He pulled her into his arms, held her so tight she could barely breathe. I don't know how to be a father, he whispered against her hair. Neither of us knows what we're doing, Lena said. We'll figure it out together. What if I mess this up? You will. So will I. That's part of it. Dominic pulled back, looked at her. What if I'm like my father? Lena cupped his face. You won't be. You know what that looked like. You know what it cost. And you've spent years becoming someone different. But what if it's in my blood? Then we fight it. Every day. Together. Dominic pressed his forehead to hers. I'm terrified. Good. That means you care. The pregnancy was hard. Lena was sick constantly. Dominic hovered, worried, drove her crazy with his concern. I'm not made of glass, she told him. I know, but you're carrying the most important thing in my world. I'm carrying the second most important thing. I'm the feist. He smiled. Fair point. When complications arose in the 7th month, when the doctors said bed rest, mandatory, Dominic didn't leave her side. He worked from their bedroom, read to her, rubbed her feet when they swelled, held her when she cried from frustration. This isn't how I imagined it, she said one night. What do you mean? Being pregnant. I thought I'd be glowing, happy. Instead I'm just scared. Dominic took her hand. Me too. Really? Every day. But we'll get through it. Promise. Promise. Their daughter was born on a Tuesday morning. Small. Perfect. Screaming her fury at the world. Dominic held her for the first time and broke. Complete, total collapse. He sat in the chair beside Lena's bed, this tiny human in his massive hands, and sobbed. She's so small, he kept saying. She's so small. She's perfect, Lena said. I don't know how to do this. You're already doing it. They named her Sophia, after Dominic's sister, the one who died young. She would have loved her, he said, watching Sophia sleep. She does, Lena whispered. Wherever she is, she does. The first months were chaos, sleepless nights, endless crying, the feeling of being constantly overwhelmed. Dominic changed diapers with the same intensity he'd once approached business deals. Lena nursed while writing one-handed. They took turns walking Sophia when she wouldn't sleep. And slowly, impossibly, they figured it out. Rosa visited often, helped when they let her. You're both disasters, she'd say fondly. But you're trying. That's what matters. Lena's mother held Sophia and cried. I never thought I'd live to see this, she said. But you did, Lena said. You're here. Because of him. She looked at Dominic. I misjudged you. You didn't, Dominic said. I was exactly what you thought. But she made me better. No, Lena's mother said. You chose to be better. She just gave you a reason. On Sophia's first birthday, they had a party in the garden. Balloons. Cake. Too many presents. Dominic held Sophia on his lap while she demolished a cupcake. Frosting everywhere. Pure joy. Lena watched them together. Her husband. Her daughter. Her family. And she thought about the girl she'd been 3 years ago. Exhausted. Angry. Barely surviving. That girl wouldn't recognize this life. Wouldn't believe it was possible. But it was. Not perfect. Never perfect. But real. That night, after Sophia was asleep, Dominic found Lena on the patio. She sat in the same spot where he'd first told her she was free to walk the grounds, where everything had begun to shift. He sat beside her. What are you thinking about? He asked. Everything. Nothing. That's specific. Lena smiled. I'm thinking about how strange life is. How the worst thing that ever happened to me led to the best thing. I'm not sure I should be happy about being called the worst thing. You know what I mean. Dominic took her hand. I do. They sat in comfortable silence. Then Lena said, Do you ever regret it? Leaving that life behind? Dominic considered. Sometimes I miss the simplicity, he admitted. Everything was clear. Black and white. Power or weakness. Win or lose. And now? Now everything's complicated. Gray. But it's also full. He looked at her. I have you. I have Sophia. I have mornings and dinners and bedtime stories. I have purpose that isn't just survival. His voice dropped. I spent so long being empty, Lena. I didn't even know I was empty until you filled me. Lena's eyes burned. You fill me too, she whispered. They kissed. Soft. Sure. Two people who'd found each other in the darkness and chosen to walk toward the light. Years passed. Sophia grew. Started school. Made friends. Asked questions they weren't always ready to answer. How did you and Daddy meet? She asked once. Lena and Dominic exchanged glances. It's complicated, Lena said. That's what you always say. Because it's always true. When Sophia was 7, she asked if she could have a brother or sister. Maybe someday, Lena said. Why not now? Because these things take time. But privately, Lena and Dominic talked. Do you want more? He asked. Do you? I ask first. Lena smiled. Yes, I think I do. Even knowing how hard it is. Especially knowing how hard it is. Because I also know how worth it is. Dominic kissed her forehead. Then let's try. Their son was born 2 years later. Easier this time. Faster. They named him Marcus. Dominic's middle name. A reclaiming. With 2 children, the house felt full. Loud. Chaotic. Perfect. Dominic learned to braid hair. Lena learned to throw a baseball. They took turns with homework and bedtime and the million tiny negotiations that make up family life. And somewhere in all of it, they became the people they'd been trying to be all along. Not perfect. Not unmarked by their past. But whole. On their 10th wedding anniversary, they returned to the bus stop. The place where it all started. I can't believe it's been 10 years, Lena said. I can't believe you stayed. Where else would I go? Dominic pulled her close. I think about it sometimes, he said. About what would have happened if you hadn't said anything that night. If you'd just stayed quiet. Would you have noticed me? I don't know. Maybe not. Then I'm glad I spoke. Even knowing everything that came after. Lena looked up at him, especially knowing everything that came after. She thought about the girl at the bus stop, angry, exhausted, desperate. She thought about the man who'd hurt her, who'd been curious instead of cruel, who'd taken her and then, impossibly, loved her. She thought about the bullet, the choice, the moment she decided his life mattered more than her own. And she thought about everything that came after. Sophia's laugh, Marcus's smile, mornings with coffee and evenings with wine, a life built from the ruins of who they'd been. I love you, she said. I love you more. Impossible. Want to bet? Lena laughed, and Dominic thought about the man he'd been. Cold, violent, empty. He thought about the empire he'd built from fear, about the lives he'd destroyed, about the darkness he'd carried for so long he forgot what light looked like. And he thought about the woman who'd looked at him with disgust and then, somehow, with love, who'd saved him, not from bullets, but from himself. Thank you, he whispered. For what? For seeing me, for staying, for choosing me every day. Lena cupped his face. Thank you for letting me. They kissed under the same streetlight where it had all begun, and the world moved on around them. But they stayed, together, choosing each other, again and again and again. Because love, they'd learned, wasn't the absence of darkness. It was the decision to keep walking toward light, even when the path was hard, even when the past whispered, even when fear said to run. They walked together, and that made all the difference. Years from now, when Sophia asked the full story, Lena would tell her the truth. Not the sanitized version, but the real one, about fear and captivity and the strange alchemy that transforms pain into something beautiful. About how her father had once been someone else, and how her mother had been lost before she was found. About how people can change. About how love can grow anywhere, even in the darkest soil, especially there. And Sophia would listen, would understand, would carry that truth forward, that redemption is real, that second chances exist, that the worst moments can become the doorway to the best ones, if you're brave enough to walk through. But that was later. For now, Dominic and Lena stood at the bus stop, hand in hand, hearts intertwined. Two people who'd found each other in the worst possible way, and made it beautiful anyway. The bus came. They didn't get on, just watched it pass, then turned toward home, toward their life, toward the future they were still building. Together, always together. And that was enough, more than enough. It was everything. If stories like this linger in your heart long after they end, don't leave just yet. Like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below, and let the next story find you when the night grows quiet again.